Everything must change.
Str8out University, Big John is the host with the plan. Time to wake the sleeping giant that lives in every man. Forget the ordinary path, that blueprint's outdated. We building legends here, totally self-created. You need the 4 pillars for total fulfillment. Money, muscle, frame in the game, that's the mission. Master your finances, forge your body and mindset. Level up your influence, make them all respect. Yet, stop settling for a life that's just a faded dream. Time to build your empire, make your own world shine supreme. This is the goal, let's get to work. Yeah, Str8out University.
What's good, everybody? How's everybody doing today? I hope you had a great weekend, and we are here on Sunday talking about the Sunday news. There's a bunch of stuff going on. I'm telling you, the world sometimes feels like it's on fire, man, and let me tell you something, it really isn't. I mean, it just feels that way, and we're told to feel that way, and I can be honest with you when I tell you even sometimes I feel that way, and I just look around and I just shake my head like, damn, man, is all this stuff really happening? But, you know, there's a lot of really great stuff happening, and I think sometimes we need to concentrate on those things because, you know, things aren't as bad as people want us to believe it. But that's up to us to be able to say, you know, let me look into that a little bit more, having a little bit of open mind in talking about some of these things, because, man, if we're always going to be inundated with the negative, you know, we just need to understand that we are a positive group of people. And you know what? When you're positive, you attract positive things. But, you know, we do have to sometimes be able to tell people, look, you know, you got to stop with your bullshit, because, you know, the Debbie Downers, as I've heard this comment made, you know, people that want to just rain on the parade, man, no matter what happened. Woe is me. Life is this, you know, Chicken Little, man, the sky's falling when it's not. And when you hang around people like that, when you're in that kind of echo chamber, it makes for a tough existence, man. So, you know, it's all about trying to be as positive as we can. Now, don't get me wrong. Are things fucked up? Of course they are. Of course they're fucked up. But you know what? Not everything is perfect, but not everything is so fucked up that we can't fix whatever's happening. So I like to point those things out to people. I love calling people out on their bullshit, because that's just how I am. You know, I'm open and honest with people. And sometimes to my own detriment at times, because people get upset with me and unfriend me. And I understand that, you know, if you can't handle the truth, I get it. I'm not the type of person that if I'm wrong, I can never admit it. Of course, look, I'm never always 100% right, but I can tell you I am 100% sure that I'm 50% right. So I just take that kind of method and working toward that. And I want to bring up my guest. And let me tell you something. This guy is becoming a very good friend of the show and mine. Let me go ahead and bring my guy up. Mr. Jess, please introduce yourself and let everybody know what's going on.
What's up, Big John? This is Jess from the Unpack Mindset, man. I'm happy to be here again. I love being on your channel, man. It's good to talk to you, man. It's good to have dialogue and just move forward, man. You know, we don't always have to agree on everything. But, you know, I always believe, like I say on my podcast, dialogue should supersede everything. And, you know, sometimes that's what we need, right? Especially in a world where objective truth has become somewhat of an illusion, right? Or it's been watered down. So, yeah, man, let's get into it, and then let's see where we go from here.
All right. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about, Justin, thank you, man. Thank you again for coming on. You know, I appreciate you, and I watched the Unpack Mindset, and when you post things, and let me tell you something, man, I can honestly tell you that it's kind of rare for me to sit there and nod my head when people are talking sometimes, because of all the just blatant bullshit that people say. And I can appreciate your honest viewpoint of things. And, you know, in having many conversations with you, you know, I understand that, you know, we all are under the impression that, you know, we want to be right about what we said, but at least we can understand that we are wrong at times. And I'm willing to be corrected, much as yourself. And you know what? I can appreciate that kind of honesty and talk, man. So you know what? We need to get those kinds of things out there. So I got a question for you. I find it a little bit funny when I talk to people and they don't know, like it almost seems unreal to me that they don't even understand the world that's around them. Like when I'm talking to people and they say things and it's like, you know, and I'm looking at them like, well, I'm not sure what world you live in, but that's not a world that I recognize. And I find it odd because I start to think, are you in an echo chamber? And, I'm not asking the people this, but I'm just kind of thinking in my own head as they're telling me their story or a story. And I'm just like, I don't, where, like, where do you live, man? I don't know where you live to think that way. And then I see interviews with people and it's happening more and more, and it's becoming more and more prevalent to the point where people look at other people and think that I had a woman tell me how oppressed I was and that I didn't even understand how oppressed I am. And I was like, okay, I'm oppressed. And then she says, yes. I go, I'm oppressed, or people like me, like what, people think that Mexicanos and black people are oppressed. And I'm like, okay, who and where? And then she says, you're oppressed. See, you don't even understand. And she was telling me that I could not comprehend how oppressed I am. And I was taken back by that. Like, okay, you're telling me I don't understand. And I could not understand how she was even thinking that way. Like, I'm looking at it like, am I not intelligent enough to understand? And she was so confident about what she was telling me. It almost made me think like, is this bitch right? And then I started thinking, nah, shit, what the fuck is she talking about? So I looked at that like, man, I don't know. Have you had that kind of experience, man, where people tell you that the man or the boogeyman is after you and that's what's happening to you?
Yeah, you know what? I look, so let me break it down a little bit from my perspective. And this is just how I see it. Maybe, it's because we grew up at a time where conversations were somewhat tangible, right? Like, if you were wrong, man, you really felt it. You really felt it, right? Like, it's especially if you're in a group setting and you're trying to get your point across, and you think that you're right, but maybe you got some misinformation, and then everyone's like, "No, dude, you got it all twisted," right? And you would find out real quick. The problem with society today, in my opinion, is there's one, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, right? Like, we got we got a lot of access to information. Okay, so people are overstimulated. Okay, they're overstimulated. So not only do you have a lot of access to information, you got a lot of access to misinformation. So now you got people that can't understand objective truth. They don't get it. They don't feel it. There's nothing that they're taking away from it. They're just getting rage bait 24 hours a day. Artificial intelligence is basically rewarding you with what you want to see. So I did a podcast about this a while back, and basically, and what I was saying in that prior podcast was, if you're looking up how to I don't know, how to garden or how to plant a certain plant, or you get what I'm saying, but it's gonna reward you with that information. So if you have a very negative disposition about something or a negative opinion about somebody, your feed is going to be that, and it's going to reward you with that type of information. So what's going on there is people are losing the ability to peel back the layer, right? That layer, like, oh shit, am I really what do you call it? Am I really I guess systematically oppressed? You know what I'm saying? And people start believing that, right? Because they don't have nobody to argue with, they don't have nobody to debate with. So it's just one of those things where I feel like, my personal opinion, I feel like this: if you want respect in this world, right? If you truly, like, from a personal individual standpoint, if you want respect in this world, whether you're a male, whether you're a female, whether you're young, whether you're old, if you want respect in this world, stand beside me, don't stand behind me.
Gotcha.
Because if you stand behind me, I'm not going to respect you.
Right.
And that's the thing, right? So I always try to challenge myself and challenge my perspective. And like we've had these conversations before, right?
Yeah.
Um, we don't like being stereotyped, right? Raza. We don't like being stereotyped. We don't like when people say, "Oh, you see, look, you see that Mexican guy, you see what he's doing, or see what that raza is doing. See, they're all like that, right?" We don't like that. Nobody does, man, and that's what I try to share with people. Like, nobody likes to be stereotyped. Nobody does. So, are you competing for respect now by falling into that mentality, or are you competing, or are you just giving up and you're just saying, I want to be looked at as a victim?
But even when people fight back about being a victim, like I'm having this discussion with this woman, and she's an older woman, and she's just totally fixated on how I'm oppressed, and I can't even understand. Like, I don't have the wherewithal to even understand how oppressed I am. And I'm like, you realize I'm a young retiree. Um, I must have done something right, and I'm not sure what boogeyman held me down. How I've always been told that certain people are the boogeyman, and those certain people, let's be honest about it, it's the white tea people. And I say white tea because you can't. Apparently, the algorithm doesn't let you say certain words. Okay, so let's try to be friendly about that. Um, that white tea people are bad people, and let me tell you something. I've run across a lot of people, and the most racially profiled, the most uh, unfriendly people that I have ever run across are my own people. Okay.
Mhm.
I've run across a lot of white people. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I gotten into it with some white tea people about issues, or maybe they took umbrage with me somehow. Yes, those things have happened. And I've even come across where a white tea person has said something that was a little racially charged against me because we were in the midst of a heated argument. But it wasn't, don't get me wrong, I was flailing them back too, so I wasn't exactly
Right.
not engaged. But my own people, have told me things and have treated me a certain way more often than white tea people have in my experience. Now, I'm sure everybody has different experiences in life, but I've been around a lot of white tea people in social settings, and you know what? I can tell you that I feel a little odd because of what has been told to me, but nobody did anything. Nobody said anything. Nobody made me feel a certain way. But the whole thing of keep, kind of like hitting you on the forehead with their finger saying, "Sabes que you're oppressed," is a weird thing, and I just didn't understand that, man. And I just was like, wow, I consider myself to be a smart person. I'm not a genius, but why do people feel this way? Like they have to victimize other people.
I think that like growing up, I was more ideological, right? Like I always wanted to um, help everybody out. Like a wounded deer, right? Wounded deer syndrome. I call it wounded deer syndrome. You see a wounded deer on the road, and you want to pull over and you want to save it, right?
Ah,
But I always kind of felt like, yeah, I want to save the world. I want to save the world. I want to, change everybody into, just kind of just. I always felt I was really idealistic. I didn't realize that people truly are different, and there's bad players in the game.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And there's people. What people don't realize is um, that there's just malicious people out there, malevolent people out there, man, that really don't care about what you think, and they don't care about how much peace and love that you want to spread. They want to hurt you, and we live in a very, very ugly world, and the reality is that you know I just feel like now as I'm older, I'm not so ideological. I look at things like I don't know who said this, but um, they it's just a real short quote. They said there's a difference between they told me this. I'm trying to remember who told me this, but he said, you know what, Jesse, there's a difference between the weather and the climate. Learn how to tell the difference.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Because the weather is reality, and the climate, that's just like whatever.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
No,
So I've always kind of kept that perspective, like, is this the weather or is this the climate? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You know, I've always taken that, but you know, maybe I'm a softie. I don't know, bro. I don't know what it is, but I don't really get upset when people try to say, oh, you're oppressed and you're this, like that. I just kind of look at it like, how can I tell this person that they're not? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I try to figure it out and try to talk to them, but you know, it doesn't get me upset to a point where, oh, you know, I can't save this person or I can't change this person's mind, because at the end of the day, some people are more committed to their feelings than they are to
the truth.
The weather, the truth.
No, you're absolutely right. And see, and you know, I try to have conversations with people because, much like yourself, you know, you're very ideological, logical about what you're talking about, and I can appreciate those things. So I love to have that kind of conversation, but sometimes I like to try to dive into, and I don't know, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but I like to try to dive into people's heads about how they're thinking when they think in a way that, to me, is an asinine way of thinking. And I'm just like, I just want to know, like, where in the hell did that ideal birth from? Like, where did you come up with this? How did you know, who told you that this was going, that the world was that way? Because I think that when we tell people this, and I think our people, I do think that my people, our people, Mexicanos, are starting to buy into some of this nonsense of how we're victims when we're not victims, man. Our parents and our grandparents have all been sitting there telling us, work hard for what you want, work hard toward the path that you want. Now, Damon Dash, who's an entrepreneur who came up with Rockaware clothing, he said something in an interview which I thought was really great, which was with Charlemagne the God. These people call on the Breakfast Club. They have this radio show and podcast, and he was telling them, you know how ignorant you sound when you say things like, Donald Trump is a bad businessman. He says this guy filed for bankruptcy like 5-6 times, but he's a billionaire. You know, he's a billionaire. He makes all this money. He makes these moves. You know, bankruptcy is part of making moves because you fail. Not everybody has 100% success rate in business. There is going to be some failures. Even ¿cómo se llama? Warren Buffett talks about how people talk about his success, but nobody talks about his failures. And in an interview, he was telling this woman, like, look, I bought this company. I sold it at this, I made, $100 million on it. She goes, oh, that's amazing. She goes, no. He goes, no, because if I would have just kept it for another 3 years, I would have made $1 billion. He goes, so nobody talks about that, or talks about the company that I put $100 million in and I lost. Nobody talks about that. They just talk about my successes. And that's kind of how I think we are. And this Damon Dash points that out and says, look, if you're going to work every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, you're at work all day. You're not enjoying life. You're not involved in life because you have to be at work. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to be a businessman, you have to be able to be fully into that and understanding what that truly means. And I think that we have been sold a bill of goods that we're all part of this society that is a victim. And it's like, I think our people are starting to buy into that because, I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I was a union steward for 25 years. So I dealt with people's cases, whenever they got disciplined. And I saw more lazy ass people that were younger than I did the older guys. The older guys were working hard and doing their things. And the younger guys came in and it was always a woe is me. Oh, look at the supervisors, the supervisor's harassing me, John. And I'm like, well, how is he harassing you? Well, I ain't never seen this guy in the 2 years I've been here. And all of a sudden he's here every day at night, my lunch. And I'm all like, well, why is he there? Why is this guy bothering you? And he says, oh, well, check it out. You know, he caught me leaving early. Well, pendejo, you left early, so now you're a target. Now he wants to see that you're staying at work. And I'm like, how are you going to cry about that? Or, well,
yeah,
shit like that bothers me, man.
You know what I've noticed is tribalism, bro. Tribalism, it's appealing, man. You know why? Because it's a lazy solution. It's almost like a quick immediate self gratification, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't worry, I got you. Like, if you've been victimized or you're oppressed, and so that's kind of like a curita. It's like a little band-aid over. Oh, you're right. You know, people react to it because the word that I'm looking for is like it's a parasitic, a parasitic way of viewing things. Why is it parasitic? Because it spreads, bro. Tribalism spreads real fast. Negativity spreads real fast.
Yeah. Right? And it's like a wildfire, right? It's like once it's lit, man, that thing is off. And all of a sudden everybody's crying about everything. And you're just like, well, you're in the wrong. How will, I can't make a right out of a wrong. Okay, it's wrong. And these guys are like, oh, well, that's not my fault. Look at, and I had a fucking, I stayed extra, it's like, bro, you have a half-hour lunch break, not an hour and a half. And now you're bitching that you got caught. And now you want to take a plea on this and say, well, do I have to pay all 100 or all hour and a half back? Why can't I just do 30 minutes? And it's like, chingao, man. You took an hour and a half, fool. You got to pay it all back. You got to pay it all back. But that victim syndrome, what the hell? What's going on with this?
It's appealing, bro. Like the way I look at it, it's easy to argue nonsense because it's nuanced. It's nuanced. You don't got shit to prove and you don't got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You don't got nothing to lose. So it's real easy to say, oh, he got fired because of systematic racism.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's a very nuanced point that people try to make, but really all you're doing is operating with a brain full of malware. Yeah. That's how I look at it. Like
you're right.
You're just taking in all this malware, all this negativity, and then I feel like once you get fired and reality hits you, the weather comes in and it just pours on you. You end up like, these are the kind of people that end up just doing crazy shit because they're like, they don't understand why they got fired, right? Like they don't want to accept responsibility for why they got fired. They don't want to look at it for what it is.
Yeah, it's never my fault. Never my fault.
It's never my fault.
But that's the box that we live in. And and I look at people when they sit there and they come to you and they have this conversation, and it's like, what world do you live in? Like, it makes me wonder when people have this thought of other people without any kind of factual evidence that any of that is true, they still do it. As a matter of fact, let me bring up this video, man. This video I have, it's about, let me see. Sorry, I gotta go through on my little drama over here. All right. And what this video is about, it has a little bit to do about the voter registration, but I don't want to concentrate so much about the voter registration and, ID voting. But what I want to do is listen to what these people are saying about people who are affected and how they feel about how those people are affected. So let me go ahead and bring that up.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in Berkeley, California to find out if voter ID laws suppress the black vote.
Do
you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely. Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or
All right, I just want to pause it right there because this guy actually takes off his glasses like he's fucking saying something, man. You know, and it bothers the shit out of me that people think that they're so genuine, man, that they have to, you know, take off the glasses to point out their shit. I don't know. This guy's an irritating motherfucker, but sorry, let me get back to the video, bro.
Required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for Black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for Black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works. A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data. For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or like they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of like Black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, like you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the like African Americans.
Now,
Okay, my my thought process on that is like, what? Like what? These are people who think that minority voters don't have access to the internet, don't know where to get information on how to obtain an ID, or they don't even know that. As I want to point this out, and I don't have this clip, and I probably should have, but I forgot her name. Holcomb. She's the governor of New York. She was quoted as saying that there are some Black children and minority children that don't even know what a computer is. And she's the governor of New York. That's the kind of perpetuating of bullshit that, think about it. These people seem to be intelligent, I'm guessing. Now, I don't know, maybe that's a measurement in which we all need to think about, but how is it that they have this thought that people of minority don't know how to access the internet, don't know how to do these things? Now think about it. These are people walking around every day thinking that we don't know how to access this. I mean, well, I don't know. What the fuck, man?
Well, you know, Thomas Sowell, what did he say? He said most wars are started by well-fed people with a lot of time on their hands to dream up of half-baked ideologies and grandiose ambitions, right?
Yes.
Because I think, you know, as I've gotten older, I've realized that these are the people that are starting wars. These are the people that are taking positions in offices in high places. They finish school and then they go. And these same people that look so stupid with these interviews, these are the people that are out there just causing chaos, bro. Because you know why? I feel like a lot of people treat reality like it's a science project.
Yes. Yes.
And everybody that's working, everybody that's paying taxes, everybody that's doing what they got to do to survive have to pay for the mistakes that these people make, you know, the decisions that they make.
And, you know, there's an abundance of these people. And this is why, like, you know, I feel in some ways, you know, I'm offended. And I do get offended easily because
it is offensive.
When people say stupid shit, I like to call it out. And, you know, look, I'll tell you a quick story. I was interviewing for a higher position than I currently had. And I was in the interview. And in the interview was this Filipino, there was a white guy, and then there was a Black guy in there. And they were part of a 3-panel. And they were interviewing me, asking me questions, of course. And then I'm answering the questions. And the Filipino guy that I really couldn't understand because he had a really thick accent. And I could understand some of the things he was saying, but there was a couple of times where I asked him to repeat the question because I kind of didn't understand some of what he was saying. And he tells me, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I'm a custodian. And he says, you speak well for a custodian. And I said, what? He goes, oh, you speak English well. And I looked at him and I just go, you're saying that I speak English well? And then the white guy goes, the white T guy, sorry, goes, hey, no, I think you're taking it wrong. He's just saying that you're articulate. I said, well, that's not any better, man. I said, look, English is my first language, man. If you told me that I spoke Spanish well, I would take that as a compliment because I'm not fluent in Spanish. But you're telling me that I speak English well. And I'm like, what? Like, where's the bar? Like, the bar, is the bar low because just because I look like this, I'm supposed to speak with an accent, or I'm supposed to not be able to have a strong vocabulary? What?
The fun. Yeah, I've had an experience just almost like that, bro. Like, I was outside doing some yard work, trimming some hedges and cutting the edges, and a lady walked by with her dog. This was one of my other homes, and she says, "Oh my goodness, this yard is beautiful. How much does the owner pay you?" Dude, she said, "How much does the owner pay you to maintain his yard?"
Yeah.
I just sat there and I was like, I live here. This is my house.
Yeah.
She thought, oh, no apologies. She just kept walking.
That's nice.
Hey, the thing is, I feel like, somebody asked me, hey, man, because I've had these conversations about oppression and the victim mentality and stuff with other people. And I got every reason to hate everybody.
Oh, okay.
Like I got every reason. Like, if I wanted to, I could say, oh, I hate, yellow people or white people or black people or brown people, you name it. I could pick out any race, anybody on the face of this planet, and I can give you a lot of good reasons. So to me, it's just a cop out, bro. Like, that is just the biggest cop out. It's the biggest nonsense, nothing burger ideology. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a catch-all. To me, oppression is a catch-all explanation.
But if we continue to feed that to people, people actually start to believe that, man, and they start to believe in those things, and you wonder about like who we are as people when we start to actually believe it, and then you start seeing like the minds of people just kind of melt when they're like you said this word, and I've heard this a couple of times already. Being up here in the north, past San Francisco, it is really prevalent with a lot of people out here, where they would say things like overstimulated. Oh, I'm overstimulated, and I'm thinking to myself, we're standing in line for this burger joint. And this girl, there's a lot of, how when you go to a place and the menu has like a million things on it, right? So she's looking at it and she's all like, oh my God. And I just sat there and she goes, if you guys want to go in front of us, you can. And I said, no, don't worry about it. I'm trying to read the menu too. There's a million choices, and I'm trying to make fun of it. And then she just goes, oh yeah, no, I'm just so overstimulated. And I'm just like, I look at my wife and I'm just like looking at her like, overstimulated, what the fuck does that mean? And I want to ask the question, like, what do you mean overstimulated? And as I started to learn what this word means, overstimulated, I'm looking at people like, this is a fucking menu, okay, at the burger joint. Bitch, life is more stimulating than this. What are you talking about? Like, what are you doing? Right? If this is fucking
like, hey, the In-N-Out menu has been there since what, 1943?
Right.
And you still don't know what you want.
Look, I understand. Like, you go to a barbecue spot, there's a million choices. I get it. Read the menu, make a choice. Got it. You want to try something new? Do what I do. Ask. But to say that you're frozen because you're overstimulated is some of the craziest shit I've ever heard. And I just want to give a shout out to my girl, Sharon. Sharon, thank you for being on. Appreciate you always. Always appreciate your comments. So definitely hang in there with us. She was overwhelmed. Yeah, definitely. She looked overwhelmed. I mean, this chick, I looked at my wife and I'm just like, and my wife's like, be nice. And I'm like, I'm trying to be nice, but This chick is going crazy. But that's the thing, you know. I worked in a school district. Like I said, I was a custodian, and Sharon does point this out. There is a lot of people that judge the custodians this way. And I've come across it where I've had a teacher come up to me as the group, all the custodians were talking about what we were going to do, because it was we were heading toward a break and we had to do a certain cleaning schedule. So we were all briefing each other about what we're all doing. So, you know, we're on the same page. And this teacher walks up and I'm talking to everybody, and he sits there, and in his mind, he must be paying me a compliment. And he's saying, "Oh, wow, John, you know, you have a very strong vocabulary." And I'm all like, okay. But so I'm waiting for the joke, and he's like, "Yeah, no." And I said, "So that's it? I just have a strong vocabulary?" And he just goes, "Yeah." He goes, I you know, when I hear you talk, you know, you speak well. What the that's not a fucking compliment, man. And I'm looking at him and I just go, "Yeah." I use a lot of big words like obtuse.
Well, it goes back to that whole obtaining an ID. It really does. It goes back to obtaining an ID, filling out a state form, or, you know, having access to a computer, all that shit. All they're really doing is saying that they look down on you.
You're absolutely right, because,
you know,
I laid it on this guy because I was kind of pissed in front of, you know, and look, maybe I gave him a lot more sauce than I probably should have, but he pissed me off. And then, you know, he tries to come over the top, and I told him, you know, well, here's a word for you. You're being obtuse. And you know what this fucker tells me? Check this out. This guy tells me, he's a teacher, mind you. He's no longer a teacher, but he's a teacher. He tells me, "Can you spell that?" And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, it's OBTUSE. I said, "I can also spell fucking asshole if you want me to." And he just looks at me and goes, "Nah, cool." And I'm just like, think about that. He thought I was using a word that I didn't know. But at the same time, you know, I mean, but this is the kind of shit that people have to put up with. And if you don't fight back on that mentally, you don't fight back on that, you become a victim.
Right. It's one of the reasons why I don't really engage with people that truly are caught up in it. It's because, one, it's a self-fulfilling trap, bro. It's a self-fulfilling trap. It discourages effort. It encourages resentment, right? And it creates a dependency on a political savior, bro. They're looking for some politician to save them. You know what I'm saying? To save them and to give them some type of special benefit or pass a bill that's gonna save them, right? And it shifts focus on personal improvement than solutions, right? That, I mean, it's just focus on your own personal improvement, and you start grieving and you start crying and you start complaining and you start creating villains for everything. So you can't get a job because of this villain. You can't get a license because of this villain. You know, you got fired because this person, he's another villain. You know, these oppressed people, they got villains everywhere, bro. You ever notice that? Yes. They got villains everywhere. It's like, bro, like, when are you going to you got personal agency. You have personal agency. You should be able, the first villain in that group should be you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just me. That's just how I look at it. Like, you know, there's a lot of things. There's no perfect people in this world. I get that. I'm not trying to say, oh, you know, I'm perfect or anything like that. There's a lot of things that I can work on as a man, right? But I'm always self-examining myself on how I can be a better father, a better provider, a teacher, a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to be passing around parasitic ideologies or be raising the next generation to have a parasitic mentality, because you're never going to achieve respect. Never. You're 100%. Not going to get it. It's a self-fulfilling trap, and that's what people need to understand.
Right.
Victimhood is a self-fulfilling trap. And if you ever want to argue with me about it, I'm just going to smile and walk away.
Right. And, I think that's why I have this thing and I call it BAMF or BAM. BAM, BAMF. The F is silent because I fucking said so. That's why. So BAMF is an acronym for bitch ass motherfucker. Now, the reason that I say that is because there's so many categories of a bitch ass motherfucker, because you can't act like you're a victim when you're the biggest part of what's happening to you. Your choices bring those consequences, and then you're gonna act like a bitch ass motherfucker. No, you can't. Now, I admire the fact that what you're talking about, which is coaching and being that kind of man in people's lives, that you want to be able to be a positive influence on people. And sometimes, we have to be tough on people. And sometimes, like, there's guys that have worked with me that were some of the biggest bitch ass motherfuckers I ever met. And I'm just sitting there looking at them like, holy shit, man, you're blaming everybody for everything. You got to take a little responsibility for yourself and man up a little bit. Oh, why always people got to say you got to man up? Well, because that's who we are. We are men in a world of men. Right.
I think what it is too is just we all have that ability to tell when someone's looking down on us. We can tell. We can tell. We just by something I learned as an officer years ago is just, and maybe it's a survival tactic or a skill, but I've always been able to tell by the way a person talks to me, by the way a person, the way they carry themselves, their mannerisms. I could tell if they look down on me or if they see me as an equal. I could feel it. You know what I'm saying? And we all have those tools, man. We all have those tools. We just got to exercise them more and stop looking at ourselves as victims.
Yeah.
The irony to all this, man, this whole oppression Olympics is like these groups, right? You got these groups that were supposedly oppressed, right?
Yeah.
And now they're not oppressed. Why? Because they somehow figured something out and now they're making money. So now they're not a part of this oppression group no more, right?
Right.
So you got Jews, you got Japanese, you got West Indian immigrants, you got Armenians, you got these groups, these oppression Olympic groups that are going back to the drawing board and saying, hey, you know what? Which groups do we got left? Oh man, yeah, let's work on the Mexicans and the blacks, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't really see my own people as oppressed, man. We're hardworking. We grind, bro. Like we have businesses. We have a lot of successful people out there. They're out there just doing their thing, and we got a lot of entrepreneurship, business owners. You got people that are just moving money in this world, right? And I feel like we're far from that. I take pride in when I see other raza that's just doing their thing. I don't feel no hatred towards that person, man. Winners cheer each other on. We encourage each other. We push each other on. We don't shit on each other. But you could tell when someone is engaging in oppression triathlete. You could tell right away, because the irony to this conversation that we're having, brother, is these are the kind of people that, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody or minimize anybody by saying these are the kind of people. I don't want it to sound like that, but I want to say that if there's anybody that you should be questioning, don't be questioning a millionaire or a billionaire that made his money by selling something to you that you're buying. And the people you should be questioning are the people that are on a $200,000 salary that are millionaires,
right?
That are working for the government. in Congress, and then they're asking for raises.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like
100%, man.
You're questioning the wrong people. You know, you're questioning the wrong people. Instead of, you should be questioning the people that aren't creating jobs.
Right.
That are making life harder and increasing our taxes or sneaking them into a bill in a bill.
But see, that's the thing that I you nail it on the head, because, you know, so many people talk, you know, that are talking and using their platform and their voices to just spread bullshit. Like, you know, I hear Bernie Sanders talk about the oligarchy. Motherfucker, you are part of the oligarchy. What are you talking about? You're a multi-millionaire, man. You're a multi-millionaire telling somebody who's making $50,000 a year, and don't get me wrong, $50,000 a year is a lot of money. Maybe not in California, but $50,000 a year is good money, man. And, you know, you're telling that person whose wife is probably working and making 40. So between them, they're making under 100 a year. And you're telling them how oppressed they are. This is the problem that I have. You got a multi-millionaire who ain't doing shit, but talking about the oligarchy, and he's part of the group. Or you got these other people like these activists. They're out there and they're talking about, you need to go fight like that. I saw this one guy, I can't remember, Hakeem Jeffries. He's talking about fighting, getting out in the street and fight. Fool, you are not getting out on the street and fighting. You're staying where you are in your gated community, telling other people to take that risk. You're telling other people how they are victims. While you're victimizing those people. I don't understand that. Like, this is the mentality in which we have, and the people that we're taking information from as we continue to dumb up our society. Like, and I push this part because when I talk to people and they don't know what they're talking about, basic things, little basic things, basic history, basic, math, people don't know shit. Like, I think we've heard this, kids today can't look at a analog clock and tell what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What do you mean you can't tell what time it is? And here's a video I want to bring up to talk about basic shit that people don't understand. Let me bring up this video quick.
Honestly broke away from England to start their own country in the late 1700s.
I have no idea, man. I don't know.
What are we celebrating on the 4th of July?
Our independence.
A little more specific.
It's the day that we overtook the South. And it's the day that it's our independence. That's why we have the fire.
From the South.
From the South, exactly.
So it was the victor of the Civil War?
Yes.
4th of July?
Yes.
The Declaration of Independence was signed by who?
I don't know.
Just name one person.
Abraham Lincoln? I don't know. No.
What year was that Declaration?
Was it 1964? 84?
1980?
84? I don't know.
No.
1864?
1860. This country, no wonder this country's in trouble.
You see what I'm saying here? Like, and don't get me wrong. Yes, there are some of them questions that maybe not all of us know. And I get it. I don't have a problem with that. But we're talking about basic shit. Now, everything that this guy asked is something that is asked in the to become a U.S. citizen, you have to know. And yet our own people don't fucking know it. Why? They don't even know why 4th of July is being celebrated. They just know that it's a day that we get to go set off fireworks. What? That's crazy to me. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, and I just think that this is about people being ignorant. This is
the problem with a parasitic ideology like that is that speaking of pillars, like, it breaks down work ethic, it breaks down family structure, it breaks down education habits, it breaks down attitudes towards learning and investigating what's real, critical thinking. It breaks down, it even breaks down like long-term financial planning. You know what I'm saying? Like it breaks all those pillars down. And then you end up with a society that is just looking for a political savior, man.
Looking for a handout.
Looking for someone that's gonna, I don't know, man. It's a very, very, negativity travels quicker than positivity. So I feel like that's why I call it a parasitic ideology, because it just travels fast and it's a very lazy, easy thing to cling on to,
Yeah. But everybody is that victim, man, and I agree with you. Yes, it's parasitic and in that kind of ideology and that kind of thinking, because we make people believe that they have to get a handout. But what people don't understand is, in quoting Thomas Sowell, which is, how much of what somebody else earns are you entitled to? And to me, that's a great quote, because it's so true about how people think. Like, why does there need to be a billionaire? Elon Musk is a billionaire and he's done this. Well, he's done everything that he has to make himself a billionaire. He took all the risk, he did all the things, and he did everything that he had to get himself to where he is, that now we want to penalize him for doing good. But the second that you turn this into something that people can physically relate to, like a student. Let's take a student and they think, oh my God, I should be getting money. I should be getting healthcare for free and all this other good stuff. And as soon as you tell them about their GPA, hey, you're studying, we should become socialist when it comes to your studies and your grade point average. And I saw this video about this guy asking the question, what's your grade point average? And this girl's like, oh, I have a 3.5 grade point average. And he goes, okay. Do you think that it's fair to the person who gets a 2.0 grade point average that you get a 3.5? Should you give up a 0.5 to that person so they can go from 2.5 to 3.0 and then you both have 3.0s? And she's all, absolutely not. I stay up late. I work hard to get my 3.5. Why do I have to give a portion of mine to that person who's not? And then she caught herself and goes, oh, I get what you're saying. And it's like, nothing is free. You can't make everybody equal, because if you're working your ass off and just, let's say you're out there and you're busting your ass to feed your family, and yet I'm sitting down on my chair, kicking back, but yet you have to give a portion of your rations of your food in which you've earned. And you got to give a portion to me because that's what's fair. No one's going to think that way. But unless we affect ourselves and stop talking about the billionaires and the millionaires, we got to stop talking about that, because if you make $100,000 a year, there's somebody behind you making 75 that you make more though. So that means you should give a little bit of yours. If you're making 75, there's somebody behind you making 50 that you should give a portion to. And the same thing, you could go all the way down to $30,000. You making more than somebody making 20. So then you should give a portion of that money. So as soon as you make people give that money up, all of a sudden nobody is socialist anymore. But they only
it's the biggest failed experiment.
100%. Never worked anywhere.
It never worked anywhere. It's funny how academics, it's funny how when you really, I'm real observant, right? I've learned that from being an officer. And it's funny how when you look at academics, they romanticize oppression.
Yeah.
It's a political tool, a moral narrative, a way to avoid discussing hard realities, and it's a way to gain influence, bro. Like it's a big pissing contest, right? In the academic world. Yeah. And then you see the flip side, where everyone at the bottom, you got one group that's romanticizing oppression, and then everyone at the bottom is killing each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's killing each other. When I was in school, I took a class it was world religions, And we were just studying, you go through all the different religions. And I kind of had, this kind of piqued my interest, the whole Sunni, Shiite, it's pretty cool, to talk, to read about the differences and stuff like that. And I was just kind of like, where do all these leaders come from? These religious leaders come from, and a lot of them study here, and they go to the best schools, and then they go back to their countries, and they wreak havoc.
Yeah.
And it's just a uncomfortable truth that they quickly, hit, turn the light on in my head. I was like, whoa, like, this is wild. Like, these people are straight up manipulating, manipulating everybody. It's just a real evil, man. It just kind of opened my eyes. But you see the same thing here, right?
Yeah.
You see a romantic take on oppression, and then you got everybody at the bottom destroying each other, villainizing each other. It's a wild, man. It's a wild take, I guess. You're
right in the fact that we do this thing, but that's I blame a lot in the education system because we are breeding dumb people, and it's we're not allowing people. We crush ideals, good ideals, with bullshit, and that's why, like, when I listen to Jordan Peterson, a Canadian professor who got real popular, and I'm sure you know who Jordan Peterson is, but when he talked about, you take all the sharp objects in a room because you're afraid of somebody getting hit or getting poked by something sharp. When you take all the sharp objects out of a room, what you do is make dull people. And that's what we have done. We've created a world in which, people are overstimulated by the menu at a barbecue spot. People are victimizing themselves, and oh my God, you said it best, the oppression Olympics. Everybody's oppressed, everybody, and I heard this question, they were asking the question, is America racist? And people were like, yeah, no. America's not racist. There are racist people in America.
I agree.
That's what it is. That's what it is, man. I mean, we got to stop bullshitting ourselves and competing for these what is it? Oppression Olympics. And I like the way you put that, because, man, I know already a couple of silver medalists that I know that I would love. These guys would win that every year. I mean, they talk about race and racism, but yet they're the most racist people that I know. When you consider it that. Morgan Freeman said it best in an interview when he said, I don't want Black History Month. And the interviewer was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, what are you? He goes, I'm Irish. He goes, do you want Irish History Month? He goes, well, no. He goes, well, look, I didn't ask for Black History Month. He goes, you want to end racism? Stop talking about race. Stop talking about racism. Because the more we bring it up, the more it becomes prevalent in our face about something that's not there. And I'm just like, that's well said, because it is true. Why does everything have to do with a race? Why does everything have to do with my skin color and not the merit of who I am as a person?
You look at a lot of people, right? That are entering the workforce, and I've seen it on both ends. College grads and high school students. They've lost the educational system lost the mastery of reading, writing, mathematics, history, logic. It's almost like you have to hold people's hands and walk them through on how to follow simple instructions. It's not their fault. It's the educational system that we have now. It's grade inflation, social promotion. Man, where else? watered down curriculums and equity grading.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's you're basically eliminating logic and objective measures, man. If that makes any sense.
No, you're absolutely right, because the things are happening right in front of us, and I don't understand how it's happening in front of us, and yet nobody's calling it out. Let me bring up this video real quick. Here's this video. Find this thing again. And I want to bring this up because it is a crazy thought that this is being up there. So let me play this thing
I'm not getting any audio.
we're talking about this guy, and I forgot his name now, but he's being touted as the first Black American in space, and it's like, what? The first Black American in space and part of the space program was back in 86, 84, Ronald McNair. There's been 17 people of Black Americans that have gone to space. But this is what we're talking about, and we're acting as if this just happened, and everybody is letting it pass by. Like, no, there should be a journalist in there going, no, that's not true. But we're letting these kinds of things happen. People saying the most asinine shit right in front of us, and we're all holding our hands and not saying a damn thing about it. And we're letting people believe, like this man is basically saying, oh yeah, young people of minority are going to be able to look at me and strive for that. What are you talking about? There's been 17 people that have gone there. Okay. I don't know. I don't know, man.
I think it's we're living in a world where we're rewarding mediocrity, man. And we're rewarding compliance, not excellence. We're just not really focused on maybe it's just me, but it's because people don't have no alternatives right now, right? Or parents, right? Parents, like the educational system, a lot of parents don't really have I don't have an answer for it, John. I really don't, but we do know that there's a big problem, right? There's a big problem in the educational system, and we agree that the campuses are ideological battlegrounds. I'm sure we can agree on that, and but that's how it is, right? That's how it is in any socialist or communist country, right? That's where it begins. It begins on the campuses.
Yeah,
And
that's the thing. Whenever I talk to young people, people that have the biggest ideals in their head about how they want to change things, and I get it. You come out into the world and you want to fight. You want to be, you want to be a person who's part of the system, and you want to be you want the system to work better. I think we all want the system to work better, but capitalism is the best system there is that's been proven over time. This system is the best system, and I take umbrage with people that sit there and say things like, America's a shitty place. Well, America is one of the greatest countries there is right now. We have
it makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
But we have these people, these fucking woe is me people. Sky is falling. I'm not sure if you've been following this, but the World Cup, I don't follow soccer, but the World Cup's this big thing, man. And there's a lot of people. I posted the thing on there, said, man, I don't even watch soccer, but go Team USA. Right? I'm all in. Team USA, man. I mean, they're all in. I don't watch soccer at all, but I'm all for it. And USA. And people are sitting there losing their minds because we got people from around the world that are here in the United States watching their teams, play soccer. and they're saying how America's beautiful, how America is this and how America is that. And yet we got all of these people that are saying some shit that is ridiculous. America's horrible. America's this. And these people from other countries that are actually dealing with some shit in their country, they're coming here going, man, you guys got nothing to bitch about. You should see what's going on back home where I'm at.
It's almost like, man, I wonder if in the psychology world, if they got a word for that addiction to that ideology, because it's like gambling addiction. You know, people, they can't get away from Vegas, right? It's so hard. It's so hard when, especially when you come across people that were raised in a household where they're victims and their parents are victims, their grandparents were victims, and now they're seeing themselves as victims, and it's just so hard to. And then, you know, they're in school now, and now they're teaching them to be victims. You know, it's a very bad, it's an ugly cycle, man. It's sad because, you know, students there's still good colleges out there, there's still good educational systems out there. A lot of them are private schools. I mean, you know, but it's crazy how a good education could instill, you know, discipline, you know, a lot of discipline, a good family structure, cultural attitude towards learning and being critical about everything, right? And you know, the standards, you know, if they're rigorous, they take those tools towards everything, right? They view everything with a critical lens. You know, I just it's hard, man. It's hard, especially when everybody's kind of in lockstep, right? When a lot of schools,
we're programming people to do this now.
It's political. To me, it's political conformity.
100%.
It's intellectual. It's like an intellectual monoculture.
And you know, this is the problem that we have. We are basically raising man children,
emotionally fragile people.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, and this is where I think in the current administration, and I'm not talking about just the presidency, but I'm talking about the whole group, Congress, Senate, you know, everybody's talking about like, we need to do better for our people. And I do believe that. But here's the problem with doing better for our people. We can't just continue. What does that say? There's a saying, and I don't know if it's a biblical saying or not, but it's if you feed a man a fish, you have to feed him every day. But if you teach a man how to fish, he feeds himself every day. Now, I'm for that because that is who we are as people, right? So when we give all these government handouts, now tell me if this doesn't track, okay? Tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm wrong. There's a federal law that says that you cannot feed the wildlife when you go to these national parks, that you cannot feed them. It's illegal to do that. Now, the reason that it's illegal, the ideology behind it, is that if you feed the animals, they become dependent on you and then can't fend for themselves at all because they are now dependent on you. Now, I take that as being solid advice because it makes sense, because it's been tracked over time that, you know, we hear this about zoos, right? Like, how come we just don't put those animals back out into the wilderness where they can't survive now? Now, are we not doing that to our people by giving them so many subsidies and so many things that we're not teaching our people how to survive anymore? There's no urgency to learn how to live. There's no urgency to learn how to be better. There's no urgency in saying that you got to get out of the house. Like, look, we're all told our kids, right? I mean, we all have kids and sat there and said, hey, you know what? At a certain age, I'm going to give you your blessing. I want you to get your shit, get the fuck out, because you got to grow up a little bit, right? At some point, and don't get me wrong, as a parent, I'm guilty of this myself. At what point am I not helping and I'm now hurting you? Because as a parent, we want to give our kids everything that we never had, but at the same time, are we hurting or are we helping?
You know, I feel like when we talk about this, we're on the same page, you know, but I also feel that people often miscue what we're talking about. You know, people will I feel like yeah, it's important to have a safety net, right? I feel like, okay, say you got, I was listening to I don't know if you ever heard of the Sean Ryan show.
No.
He had a social worker on there, and he was talking about kids that age out of foster care, bro. And okay, and so that kind of hit me, bro. Like you know, it kind of like, okay, those kids need something, right? Because man, you know, they've never had any. A lot of times, they've been in and out of so many homes that they don't have a constant person there to guide them, and they were talking about something like 30-40% of those kids that age out end up homeless. And so that kind of really like made me, or it made me feel like, man, you know, I understand the importance of a safety net, or say like a woman who's in an abusive marriage, right? And she's always relied on her husband, and I feel like it's important to have safety nets, but I also believe that handouts, dude, like for everybody, like the welfare system that we have right now, it creates the problems that we try to solve, bro. You know, I feel like you're taking away incentives, right?
Yes.
You're taking away incentives for you know, responsibility and long-term planning, you know, because you're in a way rewarding not working, you're rewarding not marrying, you're rewarding not saving. I'm not saying you have to get married, but you know, you're rewarding not improving your situation. And I got a problem with that, right? It's kind of it's a double-edged sword.
Yes.
You know,
definitely. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's one of those savior situations, man, that we were talking about. It's a policy where they're going to keep voting for that person that keeps their program alive.
Yeah. No, and you know, and that's, you're absolutely right in the assumption of that, for the simple reason is that it is so true that we you know, you're never going to look at, if you're going to be, if I can put it this way, let's say you're going to give me $1,000 extra a month. And then you say, hey, you know, if you vote for me next year, I'll give you 2,000. Why would I have an incentive to say no? Nah, I don't want that shit. Keep that. I'm going to go, you know, people become dependent on these things. That's why we hear those things like, hey, you know, we have people that are, what do they call it? A generation. What is it called? A generational welfare recipients.
Right.
And
But that's where you get into who does it really benefit?
Yeah.
It does, you know, the welfare system, if you really take a deep dive into it, it's not designed for poor people. It's designed for the people who run it.
Yes. Yes.
If you look at it from a financial standpoint, you know, the bureaucrats need that dependency to justify their budgets, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and politicians need dependency to secure votes.
You know, but how do we, yeah, you know, and that's the problem, right? That's the yin and the yang about what the hell this is. It's not a situation that's tenable to be solved right away, but we have to do something. Now, here, look at, I'm not a politician, but people ask me, well, how do we get away from this thing? Well, here's how we get away from this thing. And this is just my view. You got 7 years. 7 years on welfare. That's
so it's more like a bridge.
Yeah, you got 7 years, lifetime. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if you got 8 kids or 18 kids. Doesn't matter. You got 7 years, lifetime. Now, in that 7 years, we're going to pay for everything. I'm going to pay for your school. You're going to go and you're going to find an aptitude test. We're going to send you to people and they're going to say, this is what you're best at. This is what you can. Look, obviously somebody sitting at home eating hot Cheetos and playing the video games or doing something like Bummy, they're probably not going to have the intellectual capacity to be a doctor. Okay, so we're not sending you to Harvard Medical. Okay, you're going to take an aptitude test. Now, if you're going to be if the best you can be is a warehouse guy, then you're going to be the best warehouse guy that we can have. Okay, that's what we're going to do. You got 7 years to be something. 7 lifetime. And after that 7, you got to figure shit out on your own. Because let me tell you, the people in Ghana that don't have a safety net, they're still earning something. They're skimming it, but they're earning something. Why? Because they got to get out and earn it. There is no handout for them. And
the thing that people don't realize is, you know, it's not so much that I feel like me personally, I feel like people are generally good people. You know, they want to help. You know, when they see somebody that needs help, I'm that type of person, right? Like if I see someone that needs help, you know, that the heart in me says, you know what, man, just give them a few bucks. You know, don't judge, don't do this, don't do that. You know, help dude out, help them get through the day, whatever. But the outcomes of the welfare program, the way it is, man, it's not good. It's negative. It's generational dependency. I mean, it's a program. To me, it's a program that just undermines personal agency, man. That undermines you saying, hey, you know what? I need to pick myself up by my bootlaces or you know, my sneakers or my chanclas, and I need to get out there and make a difference and try to do right. You know, it's the outcomes, right? We're not looking at it like people normally when they argue this, it's more of an emotional argument, man. It's a guilt compassion theater.
Well,
it's a big compassion theater, right. You know.
People are crying and bitching about everything. Let me pull this video up. I want to show you how much people are fucking crying about just random bullshit. All right, let me go ahead and start this.
I have to work 40 hours a week just so I can have a place to live. Makes me $2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660.
Why? Why'd you get that rent?
Just working makes me so exhausted that I don't have time either. Come home, I'm just so tired.
Think about that. You're making $2,000 a month. You work. You live in a place that's giving $1,600 a month, and that guy's right. Like, why are you living there then? Because you can look. If you want to live in a gated community, you pay to live in a gated community. You can't bitch about the price of a gated community. Right? Like you gotta better up. But here's what I find most often when I talk to people, when they talk about like, man, it's different from your time to my time and this and that. And, money was this and money was that. And I earned this. Look, man, I'm going to let me break it down numbers wise. If you got an entry level job, you can't expect to live in the penthouse. Okay. You just can't. If you have an entry level job, what that is an on-ramp to your career. Entry level jobs. You're going to work hard for your promotions. You're going to work hard to move up. You're going to work hard to study for other things. So this way you can make more money and live better. Because look, nobody who earns good money lives in the same hood that they started with. Okay. Nobody, the homie who worked hard at whatever it is that he's doing. Look, how many players or entertainers or actors that started out in the hood that made it still live in the hood? Nobody's living in the hood, man. Right?
I noticed though how a lot of programs like in today's, like especially when it's public schools, they don't teach a lot of life skills. They don't teach that anymore. Like I had wood shop, I had automotive class, I had, you learn how to work on cars, you learn how to work with wood. We had a computer class. There was you were still getting a good education, but at the same time they were teaching you life skills. I feel like financial ignorance, like that girl that you were playing on the video.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, brother. You'd be surprised. I know people that make well over $20,000 a month.
Dude,
okay?
It's good money.
Some people pushing 30, right?
Yeah.
And they're still broke.
Yeah.
Why? Because they want. I know somebody. I'm not going to say who it is, but I know people that make $20,000 a month, and they rent in a nice community because their credit is so bad.
Yeah.
And they're renting for almost $6,000 a month. And then they got all these bills, and they're not living good.
That's crazy, man.
So financial literacy is not really is not really just hunkered down
come with
to
a paycheck, right? It doesn't come.
It's not really a what do you call it, a poor people or rich people thing. There's or people not rich, but people that make good money. There's a lot of people that are just broke because their math isn't mathing, bro. They don't know. They don't understand the math.
Fucking man, fucking people.
Hey, I survived when I was in the Marine Corps. When I was in the Marine Corps, I survived making like $700 a month when I was a private first class.
Top ramen, baby.
Man, I was making some miracles out of $5. You know what I'm saying? So I was doing what I had to do, but I believe that it was those situations that taught me how to stretch a dollar, man.
Right. Look at Tupac Shakur said this thing that really holds true. Mama made miracles every Thanksgiving.
Right.
Because that's what you do, right? But when you make better money, you try to make better decisions. Now that's the problem. Like what you said holds 100% true. Just because you have more money doesn't mean a thing. Like being in the union for such a long time, I used to talk to people about raises and so forth. And I used to tell people, look, you need to make better financial decisions because look, you can make $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month. But if you're spending $2,900 a month, $3,000 a month, and you got nothing going, like I would always tell people, what do you save every month? What do you save? And they're like, well, nothing. My whole check is gone at the end of every month. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I'm just like, well, that's because you're making bad fucking decisions. That's not because you're making a little bit of money. You're making good money, but you just aren't spending the money right.
Right.
It doesn't help that we tax the shit out of ourselves. And here in California, wonderful California, that loves to tax the crap out of ourselves. And in case you didn't know, the gas is going to go up 2 cents.
Man, that's crazy, right?
Hey, we voted for this, man. This is what we want because no kings, no kings. But yet we're going to tax ourselves more money porque estamos más pendejos, man. We're just not thinking.
Look at right. I met
I gave myself a bell on that one, bro.
No, but I recently I had my HV serviced here, my HVAC. That's my crutch, bro. I can't weld. I've never been a good welder. My weld lines look horrible, dude. Like they're all over the place, right? But so I had a guy come look at my coil, my A coil inside the HVAC unit, and he was a Ukrainian refugee. Started his own business, man. I said, "How long have you been here?" And he was like, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, if you don't mind me asking, do you make more than 150?" And he's all, "Easy."
Yeah.
And I said, "Man, you know what's crazy, bro?" I was like, "Hey, I'm so happy for you, man. You want something to drink?" And he was like, Sure. He had that real strong Ukrainian accent. I said, "Man, you got a family?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Man," I go, "So you fled the war, right?" And he's all, "Yeah." He's all, "I lost a lot of my family." He gave me the whole story.
Yeah.
I was like, "Man," he's all, I love the United States. I love the US. I love everything about it. I came here. I would have never been have my own business in my own country. I would have never had so many opportunities. Beautiful van, man. Dude had an awesome toolbox back there with all kinds of stuff, and he was just a straight up professional. And get this, he didn't even charge me for half of the stuff that he did on my HVAC after that conversation that we had.
Yep.
You know, it just really hit me, dude. Like, I was like so happy for the guy. I was like, that's awesome, man.
You know, back in the day when Arnold Schwarzenegger was still an actor, not a governor at that point, he said this thing, you know, he said that Americans are lazy because there's so many opportunities here to do things. You just have to take the opportunity. You have to get off your ass and actually do something about the opportunity. And it's not going to just be given to you and put in your lap. And that's what a lot of Americans back then. Now, this is back in the early 80s, man, that people from other countries that were coming here being successful. I mean, there was a bunch of them, people from other countries coming here and being so successful that we started actually, you know, fighting against that, against the Korean grocery store people that were coming into our neighborhoods, and they have a grocery store and all this other stuff. And it's like, well, we have the opportunity to have grocery stores in our own neighborhoods too, but a lot of us choose not to invest in there for the simple reason is that why? Because you're going to be robbed every so often. You're going to go through all this trauma and drama. I mean, think about this. Why is it that we have some very successful people that don't invest back in our own communities? Because our own communities are all about being victims and give me a break. Don't do this. So what if I stole this? And you have plenty of money. And it's like, we need to stop that. That's that victimhood mentality and lack of desire to be better ourselves.
The irony, the craziness to the victimhood mentality is when you see yourself as oppressed, people make money off of you. You become an asset.
Well, what is it? Homelessness has become a business because we just spent $22 billion.
Oh, yeah.
Find where the fuck it's at.
And there's no checks and balances.
Nah. Why? Why would there be?
You got to keep it going. Yeah.
And yet the kings, and I always go back to this because these people out here are all about no kings. The kings that tell us to go protest for No King's Day are the richest ones ever.
All right. Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
The people funding all this.
Yeah. I sit there and sometimes, you know, I want to have the negative thought about it. And I just,
oh my God, who the hell cares?
That's how I want to feel. And it's like, I don't care about it. And then it's like, I do care about it. I don't want this for us as people. I want us to be successful. I want us to be, you know, have a winner's mindset, because that's what's going to get us over. Not this, woe is me, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. That's a problem. I need to get a final thought from you, my man. How can we fix this starting where? How can we plant the seed for success? How?
I like to end my stuff on a positive note. So sometimes when I see people that might be perceived as being lazy, I look at them as maybe they're just misdiagnosed, and the real problem is just a lack of incentive, right? A lack of structure. So sometimes it's good to those conversations, like it's good to have these conversations and talk about it. When you challenge people, and if we challenge each other and we have good dialogue and we do talk without screaming at each other, those expectations rise, man. Those incentives change. Opportunities will start to appear, right? And you gotta push that. Discipline is required. You gotta have discipline if you want to be successful with money. You want to be successful in your career. You gotta be disciplined, because consequences don't care. They don't care about what your feelings. They don't care about your emotional immaturity, man. You're gonna have to face the consequences regardless, right? And so it's for me, especially when it comes to raza, we need to stop divide the division. We need to come together and talk, right? People are like, hey bro, like, how could you be conservative, bro? Like, how could you have have that mindset, right? You're kind of like going against your people. You're going against your raza and all this stuff, and the way I look at it, bro, is like I just never let go of my upbringing. You know, I grew up with a deeply Catholic household. You know, I did the rosary every night. You know, we went through the whole rosary every night. You know, El Padre Nuestro and everything, right? And I grew up with that structure. You know, my grandmother, God bless her, you know, she raised me to get up early in the morning and get out there and feed the chickens and you know, I saw this really strong figure in my life, and I seen a consistent figure in my life. And so I grew up that way, right? And I grew up with these principles, right? With these Catholic principles. You know, I'm more of a Christian now, but we still have those principles, right? And so by when people say, "Oh, how could you turn on your people?" No, bro, like I'm not MAGA, bro. I am conservative. I'm a conservative because I'm not letting go of what I value and what I love and how I grew up. You know, I'm not letting go of that. And if it bothers you so much, I want you to understand that I'm not trying to have that effect on you. I'm not trying that. I'm not doing that. But what I will give you is the truth. You know, so it has nothing to do with racial division. It has nothing to do with being a person that hates his own people. No, man, you know, I love my own people, right? It's just that I feel like people don't have, like I said, people's get online and they're getting so much misinformation about politics, rage bait. You know, some people, sadly, I will say this: a lot of senior citizens, they can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
They get online and they see that the Pope is talking bad about the president, or, you know, and then, you know, my mom's calling me up at midnight telling me, "Did you see that? Did you see the Pope talking bad about the president? Yeah, you better think twice about, you know, your views and all this stuff," right? Like, and you look at it, it looks like a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like a cartoon, and you're like, "Oh man, you know, how do I explain this to my mom? I love her so much." You know what I'm saying? Like,
No. I have the same problem with my mother-in-law sometimes.
Between aliens and popes and religious figures and all this stuff, man, it's maddening. But
well
like
wait a minute. Let me ask you this, because I saw a video not too long ago of somebody posted of John Leguizamo saying that Mexicanos are, he didn't say it in this word, but he basically said, like, we're a weird subset of people who are conservative, Catholic, Christian, but yet we Mexicanos protect pedophiles and like the Epstein people and everybody involved in Epstein, and he includes the president in that, and also that we're conservative, or that Mexicanos can be conservative. He doesn't understand how Mexicanos, now he says Mexicanos, okay, Mexicans. He ain't talking about Puerto Rican. He ain't talking about Latin people. He's talking about Mexicanos. And he says that these Mexicanos that are conservative are like roaches for raid. What you think of that, man?
Man, you know, I feel sorry for him. I do. Like, well, what's he want me to think? Like, oh, you know, he's right. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, that's a deep question, John. I think I would need a whole 2 hours, 2 hours to answer that.
I hear you, brother. I respect that.
Right. Thoughtfully, right? But when it kind of reminds me of George Lopez, you know, he's always stepping in, he's always saying stuff like that too. Yeah. He's always going out there and
but Mexicanos are really conservative in general. When I talk to Mexicanos, even people that came from Mexico, came here, are now US citizens, even they are like, you know, you ask them the question, are you okay with what's happening with ICE? And they're like, yeah, those people are illegal, man. Go back. They're bums. I got 3 jobs. They can't get one. And I'm just like,
it is a it's a cultural thing too, right? Like we grew up at a different time, in a different time.
Definitely.
So someone asked me like how I felt about, all the raids and stuff like that, right? And I was like, dude, like I grew up watching raids. What do you want me to say? Yeah. Like I grew up, my aunts, they worked in the factories and ICE would come once a week and round everybody up and I'd be there eating my sandwich and drinking my Kool-Aid.
No, you're right. I remember being at the party, right? You go to the party and they're like, hey, ¿dónde está mi tío Ángel? And they're like, nah, mira, la migra, they got him.
But so I became desensitized, right? I became desensitized because I even had a shirt that said La Migra on it, right? And so I became, for me, I thought, okay, that's La Migra. La Migra is doing what La Migra does,
right?
And a week later, they'd all be back.
Yeah.
And then La Migra would come through again and then pick them back up a month later. And it was just a cycle, right? I think that goes back to how everybody's so like emotionally unhinged right now because of the way that the internet and the political establishment likes to push that narrative.
Well, they're telling us what to do. They're telling us how to be about. They're telling us who to hate, how to feel, and who to feel that against. Because when Obama was doing this,
like now, ask me this question: how do you feel about so and so, like a father being taken away? I don't feel good about it, bro. Why would you think that I feel good about that? Like I just know one thing. That they do what they do and we do what we do. You know what I'm saying?
But you're absolutely right. Like, how do I feel about a father or a mother being arrested for DUI, being put in cuffs while her kids are in the backseat and she's crying about her kids and she's got to go to jail now because she did DUI? I feel the same way. It's like, I don't like to see that happen, but here's the consequences of something that we've done. Just because we haven't done it in several years, in a multitude of years, and we just allowed a lot of people in and we're not really doing this. But look, I work for the school system. I remember Child Protective Services having to come pick up kids because they picked up their parents down the block and they deported them. Look, I remember all those things. Now, that's why I don't understand how people don't remember history because shit, I was there. I remember that happening and living where I lived, which was the 805. That's a predominantly agricultural area that goes through that a lot. I grew up with that. Like you said, I remember people not being at the next party and you're going, what happened? Nah, they took them. And I remember what my family used to say too. I remember people, nah, pendejo, he should have took care of his paperwork. Okay.
Right. And that's kind of the environment that we were raised in because it was tangible, right? You felt it. You felt that. You felt the energy, right? It was just an energy thing that we felt because we were present.
I wasn't mad about it though. Like I'm being told to be mad. I'm being told who to hate. And it's like, I don't hate people for that.
Yeah, because then now you're being propagandized.
100%, man. And I agree with you 100% there because that's the climate that we're living in. And that's why I tell people, look, I don't hate people because other people tell me to.
It's propaganda, and what propaganda does is it makes you a useless idiot. And I don't want to use it. I don't want a useful idiot. It turns you into a useful idiot because like I've seen people get out there and they're so angry now. They're so angry that they got this rage in them.
Yep.
They want to kill any conservative or Republican that they see.
But that's what we're telling the people, right? Aren't these people telling them to go fight? Look, if I see a cop arresting somebody, I'm not jumping in front of the cop and that person. I'm sitting there. Look, I'm gonna take a picture. I'm gonna film it. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to a lawyer. I'm gonna give it to somebody else. I'm not gonna jump in there and try to wrestle with the ICE guy or wrestle with the cop. Why? Because I'm gonna be in the damn cell next to you. I didn't help anybody doing that.
What happens is you lose sight of what's important.
Yes.
You know, you lose sight of what's important, and that's dialogue, that's discipline, that's being able to move forward as a people. You know, it's almost like you see something, you overreact, and instead of fighting it out in court, you end up being your own judge right then and there. Yeah. You know, we've seen countless of stories, right, where there's riots and there's protesting and people get shot and killed, right?
Yeah.
And come to find out they had a family. Come to find out they had loved ones, or they just had a baby, or they had somebody that was depending on them, but now they're dead.
Yeah.
Now they're just dead, and no one knows where that kid's gonna go. And you died over something that some algorithm fed you for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? So now you're just pissed off.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's what I mean by those politicians telling people to go out there and fight, and yet they ain't the ones out there fighting. You know,
there's propaganda on both sides, bro.
100%,
you know,
100%, man.
It's just in a one-sided take for me. Like, I think a lot of people come to my podcast because I always get on conservatives too, right? Like, I always talk about, hey, you know, there's propaganda on both sides. That's why you have all these people that want to go after Democrats. They want to do all this and all that. And I always say, yeah, you know what? It don't really matter what party you're on. Just vote for the best person.
100%.
Just vote for the best person, right? You can, as far as I see it, things are so screwed up right now. You can be a conservative and be a Democrat. You can be a conservative, be a Republican. You can be a whatever you want. I just don't feel like it's my job. I don't have control issues, dude. Like, I don't have control issues. I believe in free will. I believe people should live their lives, but I also believe that it's important to not get propagandized, to not fall for that rage bait that everybody's falling for, you know, and that's done through what? Through sitting down and talking.
Thank you. You're exactly right, man. I mean, we got to have the uncomfortable conversation in order to further who we are as people and stop doing this thing where we're like,
how dare you?
And then walk away from a conversation, man. We got to stop doing that. We have to be able to have the uncomfortable conversation so we can learn something, because like you said, and you've said it best here, which is there are sides that we cannot look at. I'm an American. I am loyal to the Constitution of the United States. I am not loyal to a person and or a party. I'm loyal to the Constitution of the United States, and I want to further that so we can become a more perfect union and understand. And for me to understand that, I need to see and hear your side, but you also need to see and hear my side. So those kinds of conversations are the most valuable, and this is why we value you. I value you, man, in our conversations. Just could you do me a huge favor? Could you please let everybody know? We're going to wrap the show up today. Could you please let everybody know where they can find you and how to find you?
Right. So just look up The Unpacked Mindset, exactly the way I said it. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Instagram. So I'll put up some links. I'll share them with John. And John, share some with me so I could put them on my line. Awesome. And yeah, man. So yeah, The Unpacked Mindset. So I'll be there. I'll be posting this week too. So look out for some more content.
All right, Jess, much appreciated. I want to go ahead and thank you very much. Let me go ahead and push you down, and please stay around so we can go ahead and talk a little bit after. Just want to let everybody know that we have a guest coming on very soon. I want to say July 12th. We're going to be talking about the health of men. You know, part of Str8out University is talking about the money, muscle, game, and frame. But we also we need to know some things about how we can help ourselves be better health-wise, because there's a lot of things that we go through as men, the stress and all the other drama that we got to go through. And I understand that, you know, some of us go through more or less than others, but we have to become better men. And this is for young men as well as older men. I'm going to be having on Dr. Kyle Stevens. He is a doctor in Ventura County. We're going to be having him on, and he's going to be telling us about his practice and what he does, and how he how he can relate to us as far as men and understanding who we are as far as our physical health. And we're going to be going through 10-year cycles. We're going to do 25, 35, 45, 55, and 65, and what we need to look for as men, because we do come across a lot of things that we should be made aware of that we're not, like the health screenings and so forth. There's a lot of information that this doctor is going to have for us, and I'm looking forward to having him in, Dr. Kyle Stevens, and that again is going to be July 12th. And it's not just for men, but I'll be honest with you. I mean, there's a lot of things that we are not actively looking for as far as our health screening, and things that we just put aside. I'm one of them. I'm guilty of it myself, where I sit there and go, rub some dirt on it and it'll be all right. Or don't worry about it. I don't want to call the doctor, because then I got to go through that whole process, and that's just a big ass headache. And by the time I get an appointment, it's going to be crazy. Dr. Kyle Stevens is a little bit different. He's going to get back to you within 24 hours. There's certain doctors and things that you can use. And I think that we need to be made aware of those things. So again, thank you all for being on with me. And I want to thank Jess again from the Unpacked Mindset. The guy is awesome in the way he talks. And I appreciate him, because let me tell you something. I definitely try not to judge people as I'm judging them, because that's just how I am. And I do appreciate Jess's side, because Jess is an awesome guy, man. And he really gives me an opportunity to see another side of my viewpoints, as well as I get to see his, and they make a lot of sense. Anybody who can make my head shake, yes, I can agree with something, that's a special kind of person. And I appreciate him in his podcast. Thanks, everybody. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for not only Straight Out University, but also the Unpacked Mindset. And Jess, please let us know how we did today. Give us a thumbs up and a like, because it helps the algorithm on both of our podcasts to let us know that what we're saying is important, and then helps us grow our channels. All right, you guys take care of yourselves and enjoy. Peace out.
Everything must change.
Yeah, Straight Out University, the syllabus begins. Check the complex method that separates the men from the kids. We building with 4 pillars. Study the architecture, the lessons in the verses, not just the lecture.